Hey, as you may know, I'm part of the team that has built the ThinkMill website, and I've just finished implementing a basic setup of Keystatic to control the blog post on that website. So let me take you for a tour. So here's the ThinkMill website. This is what's currently live on the internet. And if we go up here, we have this writing page, which contains a whole lot of blog posts. And these blog posts have code snippets, images. So if I open one, you can see we have authors. We have some images like here. We have some code blocks. And currently, if I look at this particular post on GitHub, every post is a MDX file. So we have some components, and then we have some Markdown, but also image and different components. And not everyone is comfortable editing MDX files. And what we wanted to do is make it a little bit more approachable for the team, especially non-developers part of the team, to be able to edit posts instead of having to create a MDX file and then do their work like that. So the idea here is to have Keystatic power these blog posts. And since the website is an Astro site, we're going to leverage two super powerful features that Astro has recently released. The first one is Astro's content collections. Astro's content collections is essentially a folder in src/content where you can put Markdown or MDX, but also, as you'll see, Markdoc files. And then it gives you a nice set of APIs to write types for this content and then retrieve it with some nice helpers. Like you can see you have get collection that lets you get the collection named blog or get a specific entry by slug. And so while Keystatic has its own way to retrieve data from the file system, we thought that'd be pretty cool to be able to use Astro's native get collection and get entry by slug APIs. So we want Keystatic to generate the content in this src/content directory. And then to read the content, instead of using Keystatic's built-in stuff, we want to use Astro's tools exclusively. So let's take a look at some code, shall we? This is the Astro website that powers the ThinkMill site. The site lives mostly in this src directory. And for now, we have Keystatic in a separate folder for some reasons that we're working towards. But inside Keystatic, I have this Keystatic config file that you can see open here. And while powering the blog with Keystatic was the main idea here, I've also created collection for things like tags, authors for blog post authors. And here's a blog. And we also have external articles that are kind of like blog posts, but they're essentially a summary of an article living outside, and then it takes you to that site. Remember that we want to output our content inside Astro's content collection. And you can see here we have the path that goes to src content, which is Astro's content collection directory. And then we're going to output that in tags. And then this star represents the name of the slug for each of the tags. The same happens for authors. We put them in src content authors. But let's focus on our blog posts. So our blog post collection also goes into src content. You can see it goes in /blog. And here we have a trailing slash, which indicates that we want to create a directory with the name of the slug for each entry instead of just a file. The slug, which is what is going to define the name of that placeholder here, is defined by the title field. And then we created fields for, is it in draft mode? When is it published? What's the summary? What are the authors, if any, which is a relationship field with the author collection that I've shown you just above. Does it have tags? Same deal. And then here we have our content, which is this document field that has custom blocks. So our blog posts have certain custom blocks that we want the user to be able to populate with fields. So here we define component blocks like image with caption, which is an image, but also an alt text and a caption field. And then we have this video GIF, which is a muted looping video. Again, there's a field for reference to a path because we're going to store that video somewhere on our project tree. And then we have a caption field. So these are all the custom blocks that the user can use within the content field. And then we have a few more like aside and a canonical URL field that is optional. So this is great. And if I open the directory tree and we go in src content, you can see that we have authors, blog, external articles, and tags. And here are all the files which are Markdoc files, not MDX or Markdown. And we have this front matter here with the information that we've created. I'll show you in a minute what it looks like inside Keystatic. And remember how authors and tags are just files named after the slug. But if I go in blog, I've opted to have directories within a Markdoc file. So this is what a Markdoc long form document looks like. We have the front matter with all the metadata, and then we have the content, which is essentially Markdown, but Markdown with superpowers. So if I open a post that has custom blocks here, you will see that we have things like a image with caption component, which is a Markdoc component with the props for source, alt tag, and caption. Remember, we also had this video GIF custom components. So if I go in one of the posts that I know has these components, like the share text to Twitter, you can see that this is how it's going to look. So you can create custom components. So that's the Markdoc output from Keystatic. But now, how does Astro read Markdoc? Well, I'm glad you asked. Turns out Astro has a first-party Astro.js/Markdoc integration. And basically the way it works is you set it up with npx astro add Markdoc, which makes all the code changes for you, which is really nice. And what this integration will do is it will recognize Markdoc files inside your content collections. So anything in src/content that finishes with mdoc will be interpreted as a piece of content. And that's really good news for us because src content and then something end up in mdoc is the exact setup that we have. So if you check the docs on the Astro side, it shows you that you can use getEntry by slug, which is exactly how content collections work without Markdoc. And then it shows you how to configure your Markdoc with a Markdoc config, where you can set custom tags like an aside by assigning it to an aside tag. Let me show you my Astro config file. So you can see that we are registering the Markdoc integration. And then we have this Markdoc config here, where I have a bunch of custom UI components, Astro components. And then I am defining my Markdoc config. I've added a fence node, which is this triple backtick syntax to have code snippets. And I render the code block components with two attributes, language and content. And so for our image with caption, the same, but it's a tag because it's a custom one. We render this image with caption components and we define what attributes can be passed: source, alt, and caption. And same with the video GIF, source, and caption. And this is how Markdoc is able to read the props that we pass. So if I open the 64K question blog post, you've seen that when there's an image with caption, we have src, alt, and caption. And these are received here, which is how things work. So that's about it for the technical tour of things. Now I'm going to show you the actual Keystatic admin UI that is deployed, where the team can go and edit and create new content. This video is actually going to help them onboard the new system, see how it works, although it's pretty intuitive. But I thought I'd share that publicly as well because it's super interesting. So I am going to visit the Keystatic instance of the ThinkMill website. Version 5 is deployed. And this is the URL where the team that wants to edit content, create content will come. I'm here in the main branch, and right now there is no content at all because up to now I've been working in a branch called with Keystatic blog. If I switch to that branch, now I have 3 tags, 12 authors, 21 blog posts, and 7 external articles. And surprise, surprise, these correspond to my src content collections of 3 tags, 12 authors, 20-something blog posts, and so on. So if I open the tags, this is the most simple content piece. This is literally just a text string that also generates its own slug. If I look at authors, there's a little bit more information. We have the name, we have an avatar image, a Twitter handle, and an optional biography. But then the main thing that we're here for is the blog post. So if I look at the first post that we've seen a few times, we have this title field that generates the slug. We have a draft mode to decide to not publish the post on a site just yet. So leave it unchecked if you want it to show. A publish date, a summary. And here is the interesting part, which is the relationship field. So if you want to add authors, you click add. and then you have access to the list of existing authors where you can add more than one author. So here I'm going to stick with one, but this is how you add multiple. And same with tags. We only have tags for labs and method, and that's this, which is just a test that I forgot to delete. Same deal if you want to add tags, you add them like this. And here is your main content document editor. So this is a WYSIWYG editor where you can use different tags and bold, etc. You can use keyboard shortcuts to do all of this. But the nice part is you can see this image with caption. It comes with these custom blocks that we've created that you can use within the text anywhere. So let me show you how it works. If I go at the end of this long post, I can click here on the drop down to select one of the custom blocks. Or if you use to Notion or Slack commands, you can go / and then start typing image with caption. So you can find rapidly with this custom / commands the component that you want to add. Leave that empty unless this is a post that exists already somewhere and you want to point to the canonical URL for SEO reasons. So what I thought we would do is create a new blog post and then check that it works on the deployed site demo. So what I'm going to do is create a new branch of Keystatic blog. So you'll see that it asks me, do you want to do a branch of main, which is what you typically do when you work on an existing code base. But here we want to do off this branch, Keystatic blog. And let's call that new content demo. So this is going to create a new Git branch called new content demo, which I am on now. And so let's go and create a blog post by clicking add. I'll call this my first Keystatic blog post. And you can see it generated this slug for me automatically. Publish date, we're gonna do today.
This feels scary, but it's not. The post will be deployed on a preview branch. Nothing can break in the live site.
And so let's add authors. Please select, let's say that I am Boris, who's probably going to create a bunch of posts and content. So I click done. And for these tags, this is very experimental. So we're going to go with labs.
Wow, I am doing, let's go bold, Keystatic content. This is super nice.
And then maybe let's go with an image with caption. So I will select an image from the file system. Yeah, let's go with that one. We can rename that to Lighthouse 100.
Screenshot of a lighthouse test showing 100 scores all around.
Copy this for the caption, although this should likely be different. And we'll be done with that. And let's add one more paragraph. This is the end of the post. So I'm going to create that post and the entry has been created. You can see that now we have 22 blog posts. So let's open a pull request, which is how you ask for the content to be published. And here I can go create pull requests. So again, typically the workflow would be to do a PR for the main branch. So by default, it's going to try to merge to main. So we're going to do the pull request in my feature branch, which is with Keystatic blog. And you can see that now we're able to merge. And if I scroll down, we'll see the changes that we're actually pushing. And what are those? What are those? So the first one is the image that we've uploaded. And the second one is our post. Look at this. We have the Markdoc file with the front matter that Astro content collection should be able to read. And then we have the post with our image with caption custom Markdoc component. And something I forgot to mention around the concept of this front matter is in the content collection, there is this config file here where I have defined content collection schemas for the authors, the tags, the external articles, and the blog. So you can see we have a schema with the title, draft, summary, published on, authors, tags, and all the things I've talked about. And by doing that, when we consume content collections with Astro, so if I go in pages, writing, which is where we want our blog post to show up, and I go to index, you can see that I use the get collection helper from Astro, and then I get the blog post. And because I do this, blog post will instantly know that we are a collection entry of type blog, which is the schema we've seen just before. So when I start looping over entries, you can see that an entry knows exactly what field it has, which is super powerful. And if you try to use entry.slugs, it will immediately say, hey, slugs doesn't exist on ID, etc. So you have type checking happening for you, which is really nice. And as a quick aside, when I defined these content schemas here, I have literally manually mirrored the schema here and the schema in the Keystatic config file. But something that would be great is to be able to have one of these schemas, because this is also a schema definition, one of these schema reads the others, or even a file that generates both. This is not the case now, but I think this is something we can work towards. All right, so what I mean here, let me show you that that's the index page for the writing page. We're getting all the blog posts, but also all the external articles, which is the last piece of content that I haven't showed you, but basically is a content type with a title, publish date, and a link to an external website. And so we take both of these and then we merge them together and then sort them by publish date. And so then I can make a grid. You can see here multi-grid with Tailwind. And then these sorted entries will display in a grid. So that's the index page, which looks like this. You can see 2 columns, but if I zoom out a little bit, it'll go to 3 columns. This is the live website, so this is not using the actual Keystatic content. This is all the MDX files I showed you at the start, but we'll have a look in a second. And the other template that we have is the individual blog entry, where you have the post itself, you can see some metadata, the author, and then the blog post. And this one is generated by this dynamic slug page here. So once again, we get the get collection and get entry by slug from Astro. Here we try to get the entry by slug based on the slug that we get from Astro params.slug, which is in the URL. And if it works, we then get this content component, which is something similar to what Keystatic has as a document renderer. So essentially, it will pass the data from the long form content, which is Markdown, MDX, or Markdoc, and then output the correct HTML to match. And then we're doing this get static path export, which is a requirement to create HTML page at build time with Astro, which is very similar to Next.js in that regard. And then our page is fairly simple. You can see we display a bunch of the metadata, like the publish date, the authors, etc. And then we have this content component here, which will output the entire rich text with all the custom components. So let's give it a try. We're going to merge the pull request that I've just opened and then preview and see what happens. So we're back in the pull request that we've created from that new post, and we want to merge this into Keystatic blog. So I'll create the pull request. And I'm actually not going to merge this because this would create some dummy content, and I eventually want to merge this branch in main because this is going to replace the code in main. But what we're going to do is wait for, oh, it's already there, the preview. What I want to look at is the ThinkMill website. So let's visit that link. So now this is not the live site anymore. This is a branch preview. You can see Vercel's UI on top of it. And the URL has this content demo branch that we've created. So everything looks the same. But if I go in writing, my expectations is that here we find my first Keystatic blog post. And if we open it, you can see that we have the labs tag, we have Boris as an author, and we have the correct bold italic treatment. We have an image with the caption. And so our blog works. And this is super cool. So that's satisfying in itself. But the blog posts are actually used in many more places than just the blog. If I go in the labs page, for example, and I scroll down, you can see that at some point, there will be a section of what's new in labs. And in here, I can find the blog post that I created today. And if I go read more, it takes me to that blog post. Same deal if I go in the news. Our news feed is an aggregate of many things like talks, articles, tweets, embeds. One of them being the articles or the blog post. You can see that now the first entry is that my first Keystatic blog post we just created. I can go read the post directly, or if I go back, I can go to the writing page, which is the blog. And this continues. As I was implementing this to the ThinkMill website, I kept thinking that I was done. And then when I would build the site, it would say, you can't use MDX files because we can't find any. And I discovered other places where the blog posts were being used. So if I go in method, for example, once again, I think at the bottom of this thinkmill method page, perhaps not. Yeah, actually, I think there is related resources, and then there's articles. So you can see the article is not showing up. Our new article is not showing up because here we are in the method, which is the other tag here. We've tagged our post with labs, so it's only going to show in the labs page. But if I was creating an article with the method tag, sure enough, it would show up. And actually, let's try maybe go and add the method tag as well, just to verify that I'm not talking out of thin air. I'll just do that and I will save. I don't think I need to recreate a pull request because I saved that to a branch that has an open pull request. We should have now a new change, and I think that's this one here. You can see I've added the method tag. We're just going to wait for the deploy to happen. I'll pause the video and come back when it's ready. All right, you can see that it's been deployed here, so we can view the deployment. So if I go in writing, we should still have my first Keystatic blog post here. But notice that it's now labs and method. And if I go to the method page, I am pretty confident that when I scroll to the bottom, after the CTA with the little email sign up, we should see the blog post show up right there. All right, so I hope you enjoyed this. If you have any questions, hit me up, hit Jed up, hit anyone from the thinkmill and Keystatic team. I'm super excited with making more of the content of this thinkmill website editable with Keystatic. This was just a proof of concept with the blog post, but there is so much more we can do, and I'm looking forward to do it. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!